After my wife requested that I leave our home without any argument, I took action by closing our joint accounts and retrieving my keys. 2 days later, I was surprised when her lawyer arrived at my door. At 29 years old, I found myself facing divorce papers from my 27-year-old wife of 4 years. But what caught me off guard was that they weren't handed to me by her. Instead, her new boyfriend Gabriel, who is 31 years old, delivered them to me. Gabriel boldly informed me that Natalia wanted me out of the house by Friday and suggested I find alternative accommodation. Holding the documents, I gazed at him, recognizing the air of arrogance that indicated he had been involved with my wife for some time. Without losing my cool, I simply responded, okay. His expectations of an emotional outburst or confrontation went unmet as I closed the door and proceeded to seek advice from my lawyer and contact the bank. Little did Gabriel and Natalia realize that the house was solely under my name, having purchased it with my own money 2 years before our marriage. Inherited from my grandfather, I never added her to the property title since we weren't married at the time, and later decided to keep it that way. Interestingly, Gabriel had been living there for a month, taking advantage of my absence due to work. Natalia claimed he was an acquaintance in need of temporary lodging, but it turned out to be a lie. When he presented me with papers and asked for a place to stay, it became clear that he actually intended to evict me from my own home to move in with my future ex-wife. A huge mistake. By Wednesday morning, all the locks had been changed. Later that day, I revoked Gabriel's access to our shared accounts like Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime she had been using without permission. In addition, he had also enrolled himself in our family gym membership, which cost nearly $90 a month. I promptly canceled that as well. On Thursday night, Gabriel showed up at the door, banging and demanding to know why everything had changed so suddenly. I locked the doors. I called out from inside. This is my home. Natalia is welcome to retrieve her belongings, but you need to go. She's my partner now. We are a couple. Please respect that and find somewhere else to be together. The man's outburst was reminiscent of a dramatic scene from a movie. He accused me of being vindictive and claimed he had rights, insisting that I couldn't just force them out. Unbeknownst to him, I was recording everything on my phone from inside the house. I messaged Natalia, giving her a 48-hour deadline to gather her things while informing her that Gabriel was not permitted in my home. Her reply was defiant, stating that Gabriel now resided there. I informed her to check the property title, as Gabriel's name was not listed. That was yesterday. Today, an unexpected surprise unfolded. It was true what they say about lawyers acting swiftly when money is at stake. At 9:00 a.m., Gabriel's attorney arrived, a man in a shabby suit carrying a worn-out briefcase. Mr. Mendoza, I am representing Gabriel Ruse. We need to discuss my client's alleged unlawful eviction. Intrigued, I led him in to witness the unfolding drama. Your client was never a tenant. He was a guest, I calmly clarified. I informed him that his permission had been revoked. Mr. Ruse has been a resident here for over 30 days, establishing a tenancy under state law. I showed him the recording from Thursday where his client claimed to be my wife's partner, not a tenant. There is no contract, rent payments, or evidence of his contributions. When I presented the property title showing me as the sole owner and security footage of his client attempting to enter after permission was revoked, the lawyer went pale. I mentioned that my client's belongings were packed on the front terrace, along with references to financial contributions that he claimed to have made. I laughed at the suggestion, pointing out that there was no evidence of any contributions in my bank statements. After the lawyer departed, Natalia phoned me in distress, exclaiming, "Can't evict Gabriel in this manner. He has nowhere else to go." I responded firmly, "That is no longer my concern. If he has been contributing to the household expenses, provide me with evidence such as a bill or a bank deposit." When Natalia fell silent, I asserted, "I thought as much." I reminded her that while she was entitled to a divorce, she could not force out the individual who financially supported the residence to make room for her lover. Infuriated, Natalia hung up on me. 2 hours later, Gabriel arrived with a moving truck. I observed him from the window as he loaded his belongings, including his Xbox, clothing, and some furniture that did not belong to him. Anticipating a potential issue, I contacted the authorities. The responding officer, an experienced older man, questioned me, "Sir, do you own any of the furniture being removed?" I identified my possessions, but Gabriel claimed his rights to shared property, arguing with the officer. The officer remained composed, appearing unfazed by Gabriel's outburst. "Do you have any documentation to prove you're a tenant or owner of this property?" asked Gabriel as he faced my puzzled expression. Realizing I could not provide any, he sternly informed me that I was trespassing on private property and had to leave immediately. And just like that, Gabrielle was unloading my own furniture in front of the whole neighborhood. Despite feeling a surge of secondhand embarrassment for him, I knew the situation was far from over. My prediction was proven right. The drama continued. Update: things took an unexpected turn as Gabriel left with his belongings. Just when I thought it was all over, yesterday I arrived home to find Natalia's car in the driveway and the garage door open. Natalia had used the garage remote she still possessed to enter the house and was casually cooking dinner in the kitchen. Bewildered, I confronted her, questioning her presence. "This is my house too, and I'm hungry," she retorted, disregarding the divorce papers I had sent. As tensions rose, it was clear that the issues between us were far from resolved. As soon as I realized that Natalia still had rights as my wife until the divorce was finalized, I contacted my lawyer. Despite her rights, I made it clear that she couldn't have her boyfriend living with us. When I inquired about her boyfriend's whereabouts, Natalia informed me that he was staying with a friend while we sorted things out. I insisted that he was not welcome in our home. Later that night, I overheard Natalia on the phone with her boyfriend, discussing persuading him to give in to something. I couldn't fathom what they were planning. The next morning, I noticed that my laptop, iPad, and watch were missing. I immediately reached out to Natalia, demanding to know the whereabouts of my belongings. She claimed ignorance, but after reviewing the security footage, I saw Natalia loading my electronic devices into her car at 6:00 a.m. Luck incident, you folks again? I showed him the video. Natalia tried to argue that the items were marital property and she had a right to take them. "Ma'am," said the officer, "according to these receipts, the items were purchased before the marriage. This is theft. She had to return everything." But seeing her expression, I knew this was just the beginning. That same afternoon, Gabrielle reappeared. "Dude, you need to calm down." "Calm down. Stealing from me? Is that her way of protecting herself? Natalia is scared. She thinks you're going to hide your assets. Then she should talk to her lawyer. Stealing isn't the solution." And what he said next was the last straw. "What if we share the house until the divorce goes through?" "It's big. There's room for all three of us." I stared at him incredulously. "You want me to let you live here with my wife while I'm divorcing her?" Said like that, it sounds weird, he tried to justify. "Why is it weird, Gabrielle? You're being unreasonable. I'm the unreasonable one. My wife and you in my house. And I'm UPAT. Gabrielle's behavior is starting to become concerning. Last weekend, I visited my mother for her birthday from Friday to Sunday. Upon returning home on Sunday night, I was met with the overwhelming smell of marijuana and empty bottles scattered around the house. To my surprise, I found Gabriel's belongings in the guest room closet. He had moved back in without my knowledge. Shocked, I stood in the living room only to be caught off guard by Natalia emerging from the bathroom in a towel. Nonchalantly, she mentioned that they weren't expecting me until later, even though I had always communicated my return for Sunday. Gabriel then appeared from the kitchen, casually helping himself to my food without permission. I couldn't help but notice that something was off. "Where's my TV?" Natalia inquired, referring to the 65-inch Samsung mounted on the wall. A puzzled expression passed between them. "I don't know what you mean," she responded, having checked the camera system. The indoor cameras were disconnected, but the external ones remained active. Upon review, they observed Gabriel loading the TV into a pickup truck on Saturday morning. "You fools. Did you think I wouldn't have cameras?" Natalia showed them the incriminating video on her phone. Gabriel went pale. "Oh, that TV. I was just safeguarding it." "From what?" Natalia interjected. "From potential thieves at your friend's house," she continued, insinuating Gabriel's intentions. Upset by the betrayal, Natalia called the police once more. When the familiar officer arrived, she presented him with the evidence. In an attempt to justify his actions, Gabriel claimed he was protecting the TV. The officer shook his head. "Son, that's called theft. Where is the TV?" Gabriel then had to contact his friend to return the TV, a process that took 3 hours before the friend finally arrived. Excited to have successfully made it across the city on a Sunday night, I was unaware that the worst was yet to come. As I waited for my TV to be returned, I conducted a thorough check of my house to assess the extent of the theft. To my dismay, apart from my TV, I discovered that my coffee maker, air fryer, whiskey collection, and several tools from the garage were also missing. I explained to the officer that my home had been systematically looted over the weekend and I was determined to press additional charges for theft against the culprits. In a state of panic, Gabriel attempted to negotiate, but I firmly informed him that there was nothing to negotiate. Subsequently, Gabriel found himself facing multiple theft charges, and the situation was far from resolved. I made sure to mention Natalia in my report due to her clear involvement. However, the most satisfying turn of events occurred when Gabriel's friend, who had assisted him in the theft, decided to no longer be complicit. Refusing to be further entangled, he told Gabriel, "I'm not getting involved in your mess, bro." Forced to make amends on his own, Gabriel had to return 4 times to return my belongings, growing increasingly frustrated and embarrassed with each trip. On his final trip, while carrying my whiskey bottles, one slipped from his grasp. He clumsily dropped the $150 bottle of Macallan, causing it to shatter into 1,000 pieces on the entrance floor. With a smirk, he nonchalantly said, "Oops." Sensing an opportunity, I immediately pointed out to the observing officer that this was destruction of property. The officer nodded in agreement, causing Gabriel's smirk to disappear instantly. In the end, justice was served as the theft charges against Gabriel Ruse stuck. He pleaded guilty to avoid jail time and was sentenced to 18 months of probation. Additionally, he was ordered to pay $2,100 in restitution for all the items he had stolen, including the broken bottle. Further investigation revealed that Gabriel had a history of similar thefts in other homes, the pattern of posing as a temporary guest and slowly stealing items when the homeowner was not looking. It turns out Gabriel wasn't around, a genuine parasite and serial thief. Now, with the new charges, his probation officer revoked his deal, and Gabriel faces possible prison time. As for Natalia, she tried to play the victim. She went around saying I was financially abusing her by not allowing Gabriel to live with me, but her family didn't believe a word of it. In fact, her own father called me to apologize. "I didn't raise her for this. What she's doing is a disgrace," he told me. The divorce was finalized last week. There was no alimony in our state. Adultery is still a valid reason to exclude benefits. The division of assets was minimal since almost everything was in my name. She got her car, her clothes, and about $3,000 from the joint account. She now lives in a small studio apartment on the other side of town. Gabriel is in county jail awaiting his next hearing. The part of this whole story I enjoyed most. Gabriel had been using my gym membership, writing to everyone about his new house and his supposed upgrade in life. The trainers recognized me and shared the story. Within days, I disclosed the complete truth to them. News spread quickly at the gym that Gabriel had been expelled due to his theft, as they have a zero-tolerance policy for such behavior. Similar incidents occurred at various bars where he boasted about his relationship with Natalia. His reputation as a lying, unfaithful thief led to people distancing themselves from him. Recently, I crossed paths with Natalia at the supermarket and she appeared exhausted, like someone who had experienced significant losses. Although she tried to speak to me, I simply continued on my way. Her words hold no value to me anymore. The atmosphere at home is calm now that I've secured it by changing the locks and updating security measures. Living alone feels refreshing, and I'm contemplating adopting a dog. Despite my lawyer's warning about a potential lawsuit from Gabriel for emotional distress, I doubt he can achieve anything from prison. Interestingly, the same friend who assisted him with my television and informed me via Facebook message that Gabriel was discussing seeking revenge upon his release. I promptly forwarded the message to the probation officer, as threatening witnesses is a serious offense. Gabriel's lawyer later contacted mine to inquire about a potential agreement to reduce his prison sentence. I made it clear that he should have considered the consequences before robbing me. I have no regrets about the outcome. They tried to take my home possessions and dignity, assuming I would remain silent. Now Gabriel is incarcerated, Natalia is struggling financially, and I am safe in my home with my belongings, feeling calm. It is satisfying to see the system work effectively. For those inquiring, I have retained my home, possibly will adopt a dog, and have no sympathy for either of them. Ultimately, they reaped what they sowed. Stay tuned for more daily stories.